Welcome back to My Hero Academia Anime Review, episode number 27. You had to make sure this time. Yep, this one I'm covering the newest episode of the anime and newest chapter of the manga. The newest episode is Finding Fate, and the newest chapter is the Hellish Todoroki Residence. Yes, I think originally these two were supposed to release last week. Now, I get why the anime was delayed, because of rugby. Why the manga decided to take a week off, I have no idea why, but give it what you will. Now, this episode, Finding Fate, adapts the entirety of chapters 129, 130, and most of chapter 131. They adapt pretty much like pages 2 through 12 and page 17. They also adapted the first page of the following chapter and the first panel of like chapter 132. That's what they pretty much covered. And those 3 pages, though 2.25 pages, will cover the post credits. I'll get to that soon. Now, as for any changes to the episode, barely any. I think like there's maybe a couple of visual changes and some wording changes, but that's pretty much it. No major changes here for this one. The episode starts off with Deku and Mario, but in this episode they reveal his name is Lemillion. Yep, him and Deku are just basically on patrol, just walking to the street, and of course Deku's walking without his mask on, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I'm not really sure of why he walks without his mask on. Yeah, it's never really explained. He does put a little bit later. I'll get to that in a minute. And they're just walking, and then Deku you have Eri run out. Yes, Eri. This is technically her third appearance in the show. Though, like last week, where it was a post-credit scene, this one is actually a full scene. Yep, where they show Eri just accidentally run into Deku, and they actually show it. There is a minor change here. What you actually see, because in the manga it's like, oh, quickly you see, it's implied you see that Lemillion decided to put on Deku's mask. Here, you actually see him rushing to put it on. That's the first visual change they made, which is fine. I appreciate the anime for doing that. And there's some word changes here. Mostly it's word for word, almost the same exact conversation. This is, of course, a reading from the manga, which I have the book that collects the chapters. This one right here. I have all the books released so far. Next book, I think, comes out next month. Yes. Yep. And they meet up with Eri's father, per se. Yeah, there's some strange things about this guy where he's not really related to her at all. I'll get to that later on. They run into Shin. Yep, they run into him just by complete accident. Yep, and you'll see Eri clinging to Deku, and they talk about how, the fact that he had, we see her bandaged in her arm, and they have a brief conversation talking about, like, we're newbies, we're just fresh out students, doing internship, don't mention work studies. They don't mention the fact they work for Sir Night-Eye. Now, in the case of some of the stuff that Lemillion says to Deku, it's mostly here set in thought. Here in like the manga, where he's basically whispering to him. This change I think was fine, because I think that if this was adapted in the anime, Overhaul would overhear this, because I'm sure this guy got very good hearing. And of course, they talk about his mask, which that I think is actually new to the series. It's actually original to the anime. It's a minor little bit, but it's fine. And of course, they walk down the alley. And this is mostly the same. They walk down the alley, despite the fact you have Deku carrying Eren, carrying Eri, and it looked like that she was about to take off his glove. Like, I think it's supposed to be the glove on his, I'd say his left hand. And her seeing that, it's like, they go back to like, oh, you're retainer channel, okay. So yeah, they go back to the HQ. And of course, mostly they kind of rearranged the scene a bit, basically putting this particular scene just after the scene with Deku, Lemillion, Sir Night-Eye, and Bubble. Now, they do have another visual change here. Like, right after they added the thing of Lemillion putting on Deku's mask, they added in here, because in the manga, this is actually not done for a few panels. They actually added in here when the rain actually started, when they're actually finished that meeting with Overhaul. That's when the rain starts. And it continues for like a couple minutes of the episode. And there is some changes here, basically a wording of dialogue. Of it is basically correct that Lemillion was one who reported to Tsunade about Eren, and Deku was one who gave her a description. He doesn't mention though she has a horn on her head. Yes, they have a visual of the horn, but I'm wondering though, like, why the heck did Deku leave out the fact that she has a horn on her head? Probably he probably thinks that's part of her quirk is basically the horn because he's seen people with horns on their head before. But yeah, and then they show. Then we cut to Overhaul, who's back at his base operations, where one guy's basically just trying to just beg his forgiveness. You actually see him getting killed. It's a little bit showing a little more detail here of Overhaul killing this guy and then taking Eri to this room where she's supposed to be strapped to this chair. That is basically set up for a drug that he's basically using. Yes, though this is not revealed for a little while, but basically a drug. Yeah, I won't reveal what the drug is yet because, well, it is quite bizarre of what type of drug this is because why not have the heroes go after drug dealers? It's an interesting, it's a new original idea. And then, like, after the scene, like we see the characters back at school. This comes to another change to make. I just checked it. Now they do add a bit of a montage here, basically where Deku, because of what happened with Eri, that is affecting his work is affecting his schoolwork. You see Center Block who is not there from the manga, and you see 13 and Eraserhead. It looked like they're back at the UJF. I'm USF. I think it's the USJ. They're back at USJ briefly, which is something they added that to this. Yeah, the whole thing, like right after the classroom, it's mostly it's pretty much the same. Where you have Bakudo and Shudo basically get beat up because of the remodel course. They explain this detail a little later, but mostly put, like from that point forward up until Deku meets up with Midnight, who wants to talk to All Might. This is all original content. It's basically a good like about a minute's worth of screen time, where you see like Deku's basically like nearly drowning, and of course Eraserhead would pull him out. You see 13, and then you have it's where he talks to Midnight, asking where All Might is, and of course mentions he's jogging. So basically, he finds jogging. Now they add the hilarious. Now this is something I do appreciate. They actually the hilarious thing of All Might. Yeah, and of course they talk for a while. It reveals the secret of why Sir Night-Eye and All Might don't get along. Yeah, apparently he was worried about his health. Yeah, because he was still trying to be a hero despite the fact he got heavily injured. Yep, and the fact he could barely smile. Yeah, and they reveal a little about their back history. Apparently, Sir Night-Eye, well, it was already confirmed when he first showed up that he's definitely a fan of All Might. But originally he did not want to take in someone like him, but he had no choice in the matter. But he relucted after a little while, and he became his number 2. And they worked together for a little while until he was injured by All for One. Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, another villain might pop up, so they dissolved their friendship after an argument, and then they basically got more get more separated due to the fact that he chose Deku over Lemillion to be his successor to the All for One, the One for All quirk. Of course, he doesn't mention the Deku. He mentions in thought, and then eventually Deku basically promises him that he wants to stay by his side, so he at least sees him enough long enough so he makes his debut. This fact is to die in 1 year, according to All Might, that he apparently has like 6-7 years. This was actually 6-7 years to live, and it's been 6 years, so he's got like 1 year left. And then the episode kind of ends with Deku going out to arrange a meeting between Sir Night-Eye and All Might. That's where you think the episode ends, but no. Then after the credits, we see like they actually skip over a few pages of the chapter so we can get to this particular scene where you see Todoroki, you see Overhaul in his office without his coat on for the first time, and he's meeting with Todoroki, and he mentions like he doesn't like this is a very boring looking office. Like I like clam spaces. He also mentioned Todoroki mentioned he basically wandered out like a rat in a maze for 30 minutes before meeting up with him, and then the episode ends basically with the first panel like adaptation, the first panel you see from page 2 from 132, and that's the episode. I gotta say, for adaptation wise, the episode did a really good job. It's a pretty good episode. We're building up something more. It looks like next week we're probably gonna go to a different group people. Looks like we're gonna go to Red Riot and his group. We're gonna go to him for the next episode. Which I'm looking forward to that. Which comes out next week. When the next week's episode is called The Hellish Todoroki Resonance. Yeah, that's what the newest chapter is called. That's what the newest episode is called for next week. They're probably gonna finish up adapting 132, 131, and probably go to like 132, whatever. Yeah, I would not be surprised about that if I can get to the thing here. Now I'm gonna talk about the newest chapter of the manga. No, that's not it. There we go, okay. So, oh yeah, I found the name of this arc. It's called Endeavor arc. Yeah, I think that was Hawk's arc. This is basically Endeavor's arc. We see that apparently Endeavor basically contemplating bringing his reunite see his wife, is basically his kids. We see like Burnout burning. Like everyone's like basically started the day. Of course, she's stretching. Yeah, today's the day we surpass Endeavor. Good morning, burning. Yeah, it's interesting though that Deku says hi to her, to someone pointing to her, and then you see Shudo, but not Bakudo. Nope. Work fine. Of course, they show off do some training with him and do some like doing some hero work, and then we cut to Todoroki's house. Yep. And the reason why they're there because sister invited them for dinner, and of course Never's like, she would usually turn to my friends. Oh, we are friends. It's not too late. Kanchan. And then we see his beautiful sister. Yep. Yeah, this is Fumi. Not the first time he showed up, but it's the first time that Deku and Bakugo has met him. And then we have them having dinner. And everything seems pretty peaceful. We see one of his brothers, who's basically having a disagreement who basically is strained with his father. His sister probably gets along with Endeavor, no problem at all, but he doesn't get along with either Shudo or his other son. Apparently his brother's name is Netsu. So basically, after eating for a little while, he gets up and leaves. And then we see Endeavor, Bakudo, and Deku just doing dishes. And apparently, they overhear the conversation between Shudo and his sister about their terrible relationship with their father, and the fact that, well, Shudo blames his father for what happened to his eye. Not his mother, because his mother basically was kind of forced into it by his own father. Yep. Of course, his mom tried to move past it, and and of course Bakugo was like, if you're gonna invite your guests over, then quit showering us with your family drama. There's still dishes to clean. Oh, who cares, man? Sorry, help it. I heard about your circumstances from Todoroki. We just overheard something, but whatever. Well, I heard we were invited for dinner. I expect a pleasant evening. Not. And now my such as Mabuto Hafu is ruined. And of course, Deku's like, we're sorry we heard the conversation. Todoroki, I think right now, you're probably ready to forgive him. Huh? In my opinion. If you hated him, say, I'll never forgive you. But you're an incredible person. Looks like waiting for the right moment. That's what we're going through right now. Waiting. What can I do with my family this day? Of course, you have Endeavor. Basically, going to a different room. He says, basically, what can I do with my family this stage? Recently, I have the same dream. I wish you were here too, Toya. Looks like Toby. Looks like Dobby. Apparently, there was another child. Yeah, there's been a theory rolling around for, I'd say, I'm not sure how long this rumor's been going on for, but there's been a rumor that Dobby from the League of Villains probably is Trudeau's brother. It's a believable theory due to the fact he looks almost exactly like him, but it's never been proven at all. Maybe Endeavor thinks he's dead. It's possible, but they've never really proven that. But it's a theory that a lot of fans basically have posted around. Well, as long as I've been basically a fan of this series, where yes, people have posted the theory that Dabi is Shudo's brother. We might get a chance to explore that in this arc. It's possible. Well, I like the fact Endeavor is not a jerk like he used to be. He's a bit more nicer, and well, I'm curious though. Where the heck? I hope they explain where he gets the scar in his face from. I highly doubt it's from his flames. Yeah, I highly doubted that. But I'm hoping at some point we actually explore where he got that scar from. Maybe Deku might ask him about that. He's always curious about these things. Yeah, I'm gonna give this chapter roughly 8-9 out of 10. It's a really slow down chapter, and well, maybe we get more exploration next chapter. Okay. So yeah, that's it for this particular review. My next review is going to be a movie review on the first film of Phase 2 of the MCU. Yep. But to this next video. Bye.